Welcome to our home and our property, especially to our new subscribers. We appreciate you visiting. Many of you have stumbled on my channel and have commented and emailed and have told me that you really enjoy the content that we put out remainder of the year and into the coming year. So that's a good boost, an encouraging word that I appreciate. Learn something new. That is what we want to impart, especially during these times when people are looking for content that's informative, content that's worthwhile. So thanks again for joining and being with me and checking out and looking around what's in the channel and the homepage of the channel. For today, I wanted to share with you two techniques in planting. We're going to go back to the backyard again for this episode. And I'll show you parts of the backyard that are problem areas. Clay is the predominant soil, and clay, the type of gardening that I do and the demands of gardening here in the area, I have to say, is not good. And that soil needs to be outsmarted. It needs to be outdone. So I have prepared a certain section of our long perennial border which will be devoted to shrubs and small trees and some perennials. But to outdo that and outsmart that clay, what I wanted to introduce is a planting method called baseless pots. Basically, I took out the bottom part of a pot. We will be elevating and planting shrubs and trees into that pot so that when we have that good potting soil and garden mix that's inside the pot, the root ball of that plant will grow. It will slowly seep into the actual natural soil, which is clay. And that native soil will now become the foundation for all the other mature roots that have matured inside the pot that will now grow and immerse themselves and embed themselves into the native soil. So, wanted to show you what's happening. Maybe you can learn a thing or two, and I hope you enjoyed today's episode as we go back in the garden, in the backyard. So between fall 2020 into winter 2020, there will be a lot of planting happening on that side of our backyard. Thank you for stumbling into my channel. Thank you for watching. If you haven't already, do subscribe. Click on that like button, and let's build a good community together. Welcome to Acorn Hill, and I hope you like our episode today. I have a new project that I wanted to introduce to you guys. It's a new concept on planting that I just learned about, which happens to be very practical and easy to do. For those of you who have followed my vlog and on this channel, many of you know that I've started renovating our garden last year. Our garden is primarily clay soil, and on this section of the garden from the west to the east side, this is about 300 feet long that we developed a long perennial border in. This section of the garden also is inundated with a lot of weeds and weed-like shrubs that we had to control, kill, and tame by using black gardening tarp right on top of it to reduce the amount of growth and vegetation that we don't want. Along with controlling the weeds using the weed barrier, I also made sure that we had some long, systematic black poly tubing for active watering for the plants that I planned on putting in. With proper planning and the right garden tools, this can solve some problems in any garden situation. My garden problem here is the heavy, claggy clay soil that I have in majority of the parts of our property. In this clip, what I've done is I've leveled off a small section of the clay part of this garden so I can put a pot right on top of it in which I will be planting any shrub or any small tree that I like. So for today, I wanted to share with you guys a planting project called Baseless Pots. As the name suggests, yes, what we will do is we will remove the base of these pots. I happen to have several pots that are either resin, plastic, or even terracotta, but taking out the base of the pot will allow more of the roots to be embedded down into the native soil. So we all know the concept of raised garden beds. Essentially, this is the same principle. We are using the pots, the elevated raised garden and planting spots, for several shrubs or different types of plants. This is the most practical remedy that I have for my plants that have been languishing and have been planted in clay soil. Little did I know that throughout one year, Most of these plants, and most of them are specimen plants to begin with, have been planted and sitting in very moist clay, claggy soil. What it does is it rots the root ball of these plants, and we don't want them to die and go to waste. Alright, here, so what I've done with this resin pot is I have removed majority of the base of this pot, and I have run through from underneath, connected to the black tubing, another black poly tubing that will contain live water that I will be using for drip irrigation, so that I don't have to worry myself in watering the plant that I will be putting in planting in. For this section of the long perennial border, what I've chosen is a neon green colored ligustrum. This perennial maintains the chartreuse green color that is good for this part of the perennial border. In this clip, in using the same principle, I have a different resin pot that I'm about to take the base out of. As you can see here, I have my baseless pot already ready to go to accept this plant that I'm trying to transplant. This is a Jane magnolia. It's a popular early blooming little magnolia here in the south. Look at the condition of the soil, the appearance of the root ball. This has been planted in a claggy clay soil. It was an experiment on my part. I planted it last March or April of last year. There's a lot of mold, and leaves are dying back. There's some growth happening on the middle section of it, but we know that this plant is suffering a little bit in this clay soil. Earlier, when I planted it, it looked healthy. It's still alive right now, but the problem here is we have a lot of water, and it's a waterlogged position and a waterlogged planting hole. It is not growing and is not getting that health that we need for it. So with my new principle of planting using the baseless pots, the goal today is to uproot this plant. I will be placing the baseless pot in the original plant position, put a drip tubing for drip irrigation, plant the magnolia in the pot, and that will serve as its permanent planting spot. Right, so we got the magnolia taken out. We uprooted it because it is languishing in clay. With clay, I wanted to have any root rot. So what I'm doing is I'm elevating this plant by using a baseless pot. This is a resin pot. There will be several of these applications that we will do throughout this side of my very messy fall October woody perennial border. We'll have more of those spots along this side. Right now, for today, we're initiating this application, this project, by using this 20-inch resin pot. And so the weight of the plant, there's the root ball right there. There it is. You can see we got all these bad leaves, and you know that it's sickly. It's not dead, it's just diseased right now. Now, before we proceed with transplanting this shrub, I do have along both sides of the perennial border, I have this black poly tubing that has live water in it, and strategically I punch and create a drip system. We will keep this line, but what I'm going to do is cut it and put a coupler so we could create a straighter line, because this will go underneath throughout that big hole right there, and we'll go all the way up, and from here we're going to branch it out, a black tube that will go all the way up here, and right along the soil level on top of the pot we will connect it to a brown tube, which will now form a halo. We will now connect this brown tubing and lay it right on top of the soil so that we can get even water distribution, easy watering for all the plants that we have over here. So let me set that up, and then after I've got it all planted, I'll show you exactly what I did. I have my supply here. I have my trusty snippers, and this is the black, really hard 1/4 inch black tubing that I was telling you guys about. I have this kit where I have all my drip irrigation materials in it. So I got all my supplies over there, and whatever I need, that's all designated for my drip irrigation project, and that's what we will do today. All right, well, that looks perfect to me. Nice and level. The pot is very visible, but it elevated and gave a lot of height, different heights to the plants that are here, because we have magnolia. But look at the height difference between the top of this newly planted bush versus the top of that bush, which is my limelight, and also the height and the top of the crown of the crepe myrtle. So that alone right there, there's visual interest in the height among the different heights of plants that we have over on this border. Very happy with it so far, and having the solid pot will also give a lot of interest along this level in this plane of the entire planting border. This is October. I do have a lot of weeds, but this is still nothing compared to the amount of weeds that we have about a year ago. For the soil, always I use the biotone, the Esproma biotone starter fertilizer to get the roots well established. I have that topsoil right there. I also put a little bit of the grass clippings. I have some grass clippings that I did from the fresh lawn, and I figured, there we go. I figured putting it on there inside the pot will create some of that nitrogen that this thing could probably use. It's alive because this plant has thrown some growth coming from the crown of the plant, which is right over here. This was the original stalk. That was another trunk that came with the original plant when I bought it, but this is new, that's new. We know that it's alive, and all it needs is just a little TLC. TLC includes water, and this is the end of the black poly tubing that came from the bottom right over there. So we have that invisible tubing coming up. I don't like tubings coming from the main supply and then it kind of hangs over the pot coming from the outside. That just doesn't look tidy to me. So we connected this, the black to the brown, using a straight coupler. And what I'm gonna do with that brown tubing is just wrap it around the base of the plant. I have 4 holes here, so this is close to 28 inches. The brown poly. All I need is put some landscape staples on it, and what it will do is provide 1, 2, 3, and another one right here for even watering, so that we could get this plant well situated. It's heavy, so we know that this plant is not going to go anywhere. But this is the soil. This is native soil, red clay that we have here in this part of North Carolina. And I'm going to outsmart this soil situation by creating more planting applications like this, and no dig. I'm going to order a good amount of compost, and we're going to cover this entire thing with compost. So we can keep the weeds at bay and we can get some good plants growing. So I have a few, and I have a lot down this entire stretch, all the way down there in the back. It's a good day, but it's getting hot even though it's the fall, and I'm gonna go inside, but we will water this. Show you how I do that. I have a lot of rainwater in our tub, and we'll use that to water it. That's it for now here in the back garden. Hope you enjoyed what I showed you, and hope you learned something new today. From the backyard, this is Louie, and we'll see you back here. Bye-bye for now.